Hey guys, it's Barno here at AfterTaste Movies, and we are doing our movie review today on the Sony 2020 release of The Grudge. And I'm just going to call it The Grudge 8 because I feel like this is probably the 8th Grudge that we've had. Maybe, I didn't check it out actually. Either way, this film was directed, written, and story play done by Nicholas Pest, and when you do all of that yourself, it's kind of hard to point fingers at other people. It all comes back to you. So this one's on you, Nick. It had a budget of about $10 million, which is kind of it's a low risk situation. I think that it's already made $19 million in about a week and a half run, it's good. It'll cover costs probably, but there wasn't a lot going for it when it had its marketing campaign. The stars of this film, you couldn't name. I unfortunately did not know who any of these main actors are. I know that it had a heavy marketing presence on John Cho, who was right off of probably his best performance ever in Searching last year, which was kind of hard for people to get a hold of, but it's probably on streaming or something. Go check that one out. It's also heavily marketed on Betty Gilpin, who was an up-and-coming actress. She was supposed to be in that Hunts movie last year that got canceled because of all that controversy. And there's a few other people. I mean, the Granny from The Visit. And I guess she's also in all those Insidious movies. So she's just a spooky grandma. I can't remember her name, but she's pretty well known as well. And I think there's a couple other actors. But just to start with some problems I had with the film. The first scene is a flashback. I feel like the second scene is a flash forward. I feel like the third scene is a flashback, and so on and so forth for almost the entire first act of the movie. And it was so egregiously done that it was almost impossible to find that connecting tissue to keep the story going for you. So I couldn't follow it. And as somebody who watches movies like 4 times a week, if I couldn't follow this movie, it's hard for me to say that somebody else who just watches a few movies, maybe a month or something like that, how they would be able to follow it. It just loses everything within that first act of the film. Also, another big issue I had with it was nothing was earned. It was basically them building up a plot line or story or angle and then just undercutting it every single time so that when it comes to the end and everything should come together, the payoff doesn't matter. It makes me not feel anything. That they did that in the entire movie. And I think the issue that they had was that it had a super identity crisis. It didn't know how to take itself seriously. It didn't know how to scare you. For a lot of it, I'm like, wow, this is very, very, very much like just a straightforward drama with jump scares. And if that's your identity of the movie, you better write better, because at this point, it doesn't know what it is, and it just kept undercutting itself. The cheap scares were endless. That's all the movie really was. It was cheap scare after cheap scare after cheap scare. But the problem is, it couldn't hang its head on that because they're all predictable. You could look at the screen at any time and go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then, like clockwork, here's another jump scare. And when you can predict the jump scares, there's no jump and there's no scare. So if that's all you're hanging your head on, which this film basically broke down to that, it was the only thing that made anybody feel anything probably, is you can't do that. So that's a major issue that I had with it. Also, I saw that horror legend Sam Raimi was attached to as a producer on this film, and it's kind of discouraging to find out something like that, because the guy who did Evil Dead 2, I hold his name in such a regard that I see him attached to something, and then I'm like, okay, well, at least I know that Sam Raimi was a part of this project, and I think that reputation takes a hit, even though if he wasn't a big part of the film, it does take a hit. And I just didn't see any joy in this movie. It didn't see anything special. I didn't see somebody behind the camera putting passion into his work. I don't know what happened. None of this film felt special. I don't know if maybe they all woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know if they all I don't know if somebody kicked their dog. I don't know if they were making breakfast and they broke their yolk when they were making their eggs. But there was nothing. They didn't put passion into the film, it feels like. And there was nothing that I took from the screen that I want to remember. And it was a cookie cutter horror film. And my biggest, it's a cookie cutter horror film, except I'm not talking about the cookies from the bakery where they're pretty big, they taste really good, they're soft. I'm talking more like a Chips Ahoy cookie. Also, not even just the Chips Ahoy themselves. You know, the ones that you buy in like the 3-packs, and it's like you get at least a nice value about it. I'm talking about the Chips Ahoy that you find next to those cheesy cracker ones in the aisle when you're checking out, and they're about the size of a vanilla wafer. So if you ask me how I feel about the Grudge 2020 Grudge 8, I say I have about as much respect for it as a Nilla wafer. And not only do I not like Nilla wafers in general, I don't like the size of them either. So I respect it little. Either way. This is the first movie I saw this year. So I feel like there's probably a good chance that it's all up from here. I think I'm seeing 1917 next, which was the Golden Globe Best Picture winner. So I'm hoping that's a lot better, but we'll see what happens. It made its money back. It exists, unfortunately. It's not going anywhere. But people will probably forget it. So we can all hang our heads on that. Yeah, anyway, so that was our movie review this week for The Grudge on AfterTaste Movies. And you could check us out on AfterTaste Movie on Twitter or on AfterTaste Movies on Facebook. You could also check us out on the Maybe It's a Network. Network spelled NETWRK on Twitter. Also, we are streaming all of our reviews, all of our podcasts on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and up on our YouTube channel, so you can check us out there. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/AfterTaste Movies. Check us out, support us, and anything you can do to help us out would be great. And that's here. And